The sound of children's laughter drifting through his mansion walls stopped Marcus Williams dead in his tracks. For the first time in 3 years, genuine joy echoed through the marble hallways of his palatial home, and it shattered something deep inside his chest. His hands trembled as he set down his briefcase, the multi-million-dollar merger he'd just closed suddenly feeling meaningless against the warmth of that innocent sound. Marcus had built an empire from nothing. At 42, he commanded boardrooms with the same ruthless efficiency that had lifted him from foster care to Forbes lists. His days began at 5 a.m. and ended well past midnight, fueled by the singular drive to never be powerless again. Success had cost him everything: his marriage, his relationship with his children, and somewhere along the way, his soul. But today, a cancelled meeting had brought him home at 3 p.m. to a house that felt alive for the first time since Elena left. The laughter was coming from the kitchen, accompanied by what sounded like singing. Marcus approached cautiously, his Italian leather shoes silent against the hardwood floors. Through the doorway, he witnessed a scene that would haunt him forever. Maria Santos, the quiet housekeeper he'd hired 6 months ago, was kneeling on the kitchen floor with his 8-year-old daughter Sophie and 6-year-old son Jake. But this wasn't the clinical interaction he'd expected from hired help. Maria had flour in her graying hair, chocolate on her apron, and tears streaming down her weathered cheeks as she listened intently to Sophie's animated story about her day at school. And then Tommy said my lunch looked gross because it was just crackers and cheese. Sophie was saying, her voice small and hurt. He said poor kids eat poor food. Marcus felt his heart stop. He'd been providing lunch money, hadn't he? The shame hit him like a physical blow as he realized he couldn't remember the last time he'd asked about school lunches, or school at all. Maria pulled Sophie closer, her voice thick with an accent that carried the warmth of her native Guatemala. Mija, let me tell you something. When I was your age in my country, my mama made me tortillas with just a little salt. We had no meat, no cheese, nothing fancy. But you know what made it taste like heaven? What? Both children asked in unison, Jake pausing in his mixing of what appeared to be cookie dough. Love, Maria said simply. She made it with love, and she told me stories while I ate. That made me richer than any queen. She wiped Sophie's cheek gently. Tomorrow, I pack your lunch with love, and I write little notes to remind you how special you are. Food made with love always tastes better than food bought with money alone. Marcus watched, transfixed, as Maria turned to Jake, who was struggling to reach the mixing bowl. Instead of doing it for him, she lifted him onto a step stool, guiding his small hands. Very good, Becca tilde plus minus. Oh chef, you have gentle hands like your papa when he signs important papers. Papa doesn't cook with us, Jake said matter-of-factly. Papa works all the time. Your papa works so hard because he loves you, Maria replied, though Marcus heard the sadness in her voice. Sometimes grown-ups forget that the most important work is here, with the people we love. She began teaching them a Spanish children's song as they measured ingredients, her voice rich and melodious. Marcus found himself mesmerized by the ease with which she moved between languages, patiently translating and encouraging. This woman, whom he paid a modest wage to clean and maintain his house, was pouring herself into his children with a devotion he'd never witnessed. As the afternoon unfolded, Marcus remained hidden, watching through the crack in the door. Maria helped Sophie with homework, not just checking answers but asking questions that made Sophie think. She listened to Jake practice reading, celebrating each word with genuine enthusiasm. When Sophie mentioned feeling left out because she couldn't afford the designer backpack her classmates had, Maria sat her down with the gravity of a mother. Sophie, let me show you something, Maria said, disappearing briefly before returning with a worn photo. This is my daughter, Carmen. She lives in Guatemala with my mother because I came here to work, to send money home for her school. Marcus felt his stomach clench. He'd never asked Maria about her family, never considered the sacrifice she'd made. I miss her every day, Maria continued, her voice breaking slightly. But I am here because I believe in making children feel loved and safe. All children. You and Jake, you have become like my children too. And I want you to know that your worth isn't in things you can buy. It's in your kindness, your curiosity, your beautiful hearts. Sophie hugged Maria tightly. I love you, Maria. I wish you could be our mom. The words hit Marcus like a sledgehammer. His children were finding maternal love in his employee because he'd been too consumed with providing financially to provide emotionally. He'd hired Maria to clean his house, but she'd been healing his family. As evening approached, Maria began preparing dinner, and not the simple meal he'd instructed, but a feast that filled the house with aromas of comfort and care. She set the table for four, as she apparently did every night, though Marcus had never been home to notice. She left his plate covered and warming, a small note tucked beneath it that he'd never seen because he always ate at the office. When the children asked if Papa would be home for dinner, Maria's response broke him completely. We always hope, Majos. We always set his place because hope is important. Maybe tonight will be the night he realizes that the most successful people are the ones who don't eat dinner alone. Marcus could no longer remain hidden. He stepped into the kitchen, tears flowing freely down his face. The children looked up in surprise, but Maria simply smiled as if she'd been expecting him. Papa. Sophie ran to him, and he knelt to embrace both children, really embrace them, for the first time in months. Maria, he began, his voice thick with emotion. She held up a gentle hand. You are home for dinner. That is enough for now. Over the meal, Marcus learned more about his children in 2 hours than he had in 2 years. Sophie's best friend was moving away. Jake had been chosen for the school play but was too shy to tell anyone. Maria facilitated these revelations with the skill of someone who truly cared, asking the right questions and creating space for authentic conversation. After dinner, as Maria began cleaning up, Marcus stopped her. Please, he said, sit. We need to talk. He looked at this remarkable woman who had given his children what he'd failed to provide. You've been caring for my kids like they were your own, while your own daughter is thousands of miles away. I don't understand why. Maria's eyes filled with tears. Because, Mr. Williams, children need love to grow properly, like plants need water. Your children are good kids with big hearts, but they were wilting. I couldn't watch that happen. You saved them, Marcus whispered, and you've shown me what I've been too blind to see. He made decisions that night that would change everything. Maria's salary tripled, and he arranged for her daughter to visit for the summer. But more importantly, he restructured his entire life. He delegated responsibilities, hired additional executives, and committed to being home for dinner every night. The merger that had seemed so crucial that morning paled in comparison to the wealth he'd discovered in his own kitchen, the riches found in bedtime stories, homework help, and the simple act of listening to the people you love. 6 months later, Marcus watched as Maria taught Sophie to make pupusas while Jake practiced Spanish conjugations. Carmen, Maria's daughter, was now part of their extended family, spending summers with them and video calling for homework help during the school year. Marcus had learned that true success wasn't measured in stock prices or quarterly reports. It was measured in moments like Thesey flower-dusted laughter, patient guidance, and the profound love that transforms houses into homes. Maria hadn't just been his maid, she'd been his teacher, showing him that the most valuable currency in life isn't money, it's time, presence, and their willingness to see the humanity in others. The millionaire who had once measured everything by profit margins now understood that his greatest return on investment would always be the love he gave and received within these walls, guided by a woman whose own sacrifices had taught his family the true meaning of wealth.